Yeah, I know quite a bit about Shaklee products. I know you do. But I'll tell you that 3 months from today or 6 months today, this man will have shown you things. He will have organized what we have down there. He will have been able to bring to your attention things that you have never dreamed possible. We're on the way up. How far we go, I don't know. Just imagine. Folks came out there last August. Still fall, isn't it? Folks came out there last August to the National Convention of Supervisors, and we allowed a few of the coordinators to come along too, but we had a whale of a time. Then we took them over Sunday morning in the buses. Those of you who were there remember what a nice time we had over at the plant, looking over building after building. Well, this triple gone up since then. There's one. We are preparing for the future. Now, where does the money come from? Well, my money ran out a long time ago. Of course, I was advised by very smart financial people, very smart. People who are now coming around and saying, do you need any extra money? Don't you need a loan with all of this expansion? They told me at the time that I'd go broke. I'd lose every cent I had. Said it couldn't be done. Wonderful bankers, they're wonderful friends. But their advice wasn't worth much then. Now it's worth a lot. Because we don't need it. Supposing we got into a building project that we couldn't pay for. Just supposing we needed to raise $1 million. How many letters would we have to write to the rich coordinators in this organization to raise it? You see, we don't need them anymore. We've got too much money out here in the field backing this movement that we don't need either. We hope we never will. But they're building it so fast that we're scratching gravel, I'll tell you, to keep up. When I left, there were 14 buildings completed. There were 3 of them under lease, not owned. The rest were all owned. And another one, the ground is broken, the ground is all prepared, the cement slab will probably in the process now. And this is only our temporary field. We're not going to be in this location very much longer. This year, by the 1st of January 73, we got to move. Got to sell all of these old buildings, get rid of them. Move into a new location wherein we will build a gigantic, we have it in the making, a gigantic process that you will start the raw material at one end of a 57-acre plot that we've purchased, and at the other end the trucks will carry the products out. All between will be under cement, a 2- and 3-story cement block, acre after acre after acre. The architects are drawing the plans, the engineer and architects working together to build the most gigantic production plant of its kind in the United States. All because you people forced it upon us. I was asked to give you the plan of the Shaklee philosophy. Well, did you bring your pillows? Those chairs will get pretty hard by the time I get through with it. I will tell you this.
may come as a very big surprise, but I've been asked so many, many, many times, and I determined some little time ago to acknowledge that request and write the history of the Shaklee product in book form. So you'll get it some of these days, as I have lived it, as I have seen it develop. The philosophy upon which this whole organization was built. It is a tremendous organization. I don't know, well over 100,000 distributors I know. I presume, in fact, I was told that we'd passed the 200,000. I don't know how many, and I don't care. Numbers won't mean anything. I won't be satisfied until every human being on the face of this earth acknowledges nature and begins to live a more natural life. So numbers have little value to me, have about as much value as numbers of dollars. I don't recognize dollar values at all. It's what I can do for the human being. I hope that'll be your aim. Of course you're going to make money. The servant is worthy of his hire, Christ said, and you're going to be paid for the service you render. But that doesn't mean that you must look at the dollar only. Think first of the service, and then the dollar will take care of itself. I look out upon this audience tonight. Some of the big boys and girls that came from the mainland, as you call it, here to help you recognize the value of the Shaklee organization. I can remember very distinctly when they started. They started as you started, as a distributor. No special privileges offered to anyone. A fellow said the other day how I've wasted about 10, 11 years. I knew about your movement then, but I've wasted all this time, and how I wish I'd have gotten in on the ground floor. I told him, my goodness, we're still down in the basement. You'll be on the ground floor maybe in a few years, but you can be on the ground floor. We haven't even scratched the surface out there yet, and that is true. We've only started to commence to begin. The future is of such tremendous expanse that I hope every one of you will at least realize a portion of the possibilities that await you. From this moment on, as in every human being's life, life is what you make it. Now, the philosophy of Shaklee products was just too far out. 1956, well, before that, a few years, I began to talk to my friends, so-called friends anyhow, business associates, bankers, attorneys. I had a dream, as it were. They called me a dreamer anyhow. I had an image that I wanted to develop. I went to different ones and explained it. I wasn't asking to borrow them any money from them. I did have a few dollars that I expected to spend every dime of it in getting this thing started. But I didn't ask them for a favor. I asked them for their opinion. Every last one of them called me a fool. I mean it literally. They said, Doc, you're a fool. You lose every dollar you've ever earned. You lose everything you've got because such a dream is beyond the possibility in this day and age of the world. It can't be done. Businesses aren't built that way. You can't give away to the other fellow everything. and expect to keep any to yourself enough to keep your head afloat. Well, you know, that's like waving a red flag in front of an aggravated bull. I wondered if they were so darn smart to give me all that good advice, why their business wasn't growing bigger. So I decided to forget their good advice, good intentions, and I appreciated it. But I decided that I was going to do it anyhow, because in all of my laboratory work in the early days on down, we had a motto hanging on the wall. It got so terribly ragged and faded that I had to take it down. When they moved into the new center down there, I decided I'd get rid of the old sign. But that sign was an inspiration to me because it read, "The difficult we do immediately, the impossible takes a little longer." So if they said it was impossible, I expected it would take a little longer. 1956, we rented an office building. Shaklee products became an actuality as far as sale to the public was concerned. We were selling to the profession before that, selling some. We couldn't convert the profession. The medical profession particularly laughed, scoffed, a few accepted. Most other professions refused to accept. So we weren't making any money. In fact, we were losing money every year. So in 1956, we opened our office in Oakland, California on 14th Street. I was the general manager, the office manager, the advertising manager, the sales manager, and the shipping manager. I had a girl type the letters because I'm a very, very poor typist. Besides that, I can't spell very well. I have to stop and think. Anyhow, I had a stenographer working. I was there about 3 months, and we had about 15 or 20 distributors. In fact, one fellow had even become a supervisor. So I knew the thing was going to go over. I went down to 1610 Harrison Street, still in Oakland, and rented an open building, an open room, built the petitions in there to open the office. Now, what do you suppose I did? I built 3 office space, 3 offices with the stenographer and receptionist benches and those things that had to be outside. 3 private offices. Now, I couldn't be in all 3 of them, but I never invited anybody to come in. After opening up a couple of days, I think, boys were both in business for themselves. They had talked over. They called down, wanted to talk with me, wanted to come in. They did. Of course, they knew they'd been around. They'd looked through the windows, or they'd been in there when we were building. They knew there was 2 empty office spaces waiting for the time when they decided to come in, and that's what it was for. I knew they'd come in. They did. It's been one of the most pleasant business relationships that you could possibly imagine, because the Shaklee boys are very close. The growth since then has been tremendous. Starting Now, I was asked tonight to give you a little history of Shaklee products, starting with right at the bottom, with very little capital, but a determination. Now, why? Ask yourself why. Did I have the nerve to start this thing when I didn't have enough capital to withstand the least bit of drop-off or kickback. The reason I had the nerve to start it is because in all of my undertaking in life, I've had faith in myself. I believed that whatsoever ye ask, believing, ye shall receive. And believe me, I was a good asker. I asked for the impossible, but it was brought forth. Got to make the adjustment to want to be of service, to want to help humanity. You've got to learn to love people. You've got to know that in your heart you desire to serve the other fellow more than you desire to grasp his money. Let me tell you this, money is the hardest taskmaster in the world. Don't be so greedy to get it, because it'll drown you if you do. Be very careful and very slow about handling it. But you must serve humanity. Hundreds of thousands, millions of people here in the United States never heard of Shaklee products. More of them know about it now than they did when we started, of course, but there are still millions. You say Shaklee, oh, what's that? So you're on the ground floor. We've just started. We haven't got up to run yet, although we've been speeding along on the crawl pretty fast. Wore the knees out of my britches, I'll tell you. But you have the opportunity ahead of you out there if you live true to the Shaklee philosophy. And here it is. I want you to follow it. In the beginning, as science always says, in the beginning, if there was a beginning, and there must have been a beginning, and so forth and so forth. Now, in the beginning, we're told, biblical history, that he willed, the Creator willed this to happen. And it so happened. That will was a thought. Your will, you think, you produce a thought that produces results. So in the beginning, it was so ordained by the Creator, there was a will that this happened and that happened and so forth. And today it's exactly the same thing. The creative energy of life, the only life force that exists. It's in your body, it's in the old cow's body, and all animals and all vegetables, everything living, these beautiful flowers, the energy of the Creator that created those things, and the intelligence of the creative intelligence that directed the force of life to produce these colors and the beautiful flowers. Everything that exists is a product of nature. What is nature? Nature is nothing in itself. It has no power in itself. We talk a lot about being true to nature, doing this, doing that. But nature is simply an expression of the Creator. That's what it is. It's a product of nature. The face of the earth, we call it, the things that's growing out we call nature, is simply an expression of the Creator. And you look upon it and you say, isn't nature grand? Yes, nature is grand. And everything you see in nature is a product of the creative intelligence and the creative energy, nothing more. And man is a product of nature or a product of the creative intelligence. Man is simply part of nature. You are nature. Now, if you've got the nerve to stand in front of the mirror tomorrow morning before you put on your clothes and say, "Isn't nature grand?" I doubt very many of you being able to take the second glance. You're making such a mistake by neglecting one of nature's prime products, your body, the only body you'll ever have. You've got to keep it in good repair, because if you don't, the minute that body of yours gets so terribly disturbed or worn out, the tissue cells, the minute it gets to a point where the creative energy, the life force that keeps you operating, finds that it's unfit for it to remain and operate, it departs and you're dead. Everything depends upon the flow of energy from the universal center, the creative center of the universe. Everything depends upon the intelligent direction of the creative intelligence of the universe. Everything in the face of this earth is a product of the creative energy and life force and the creative intelligence. Yes, nature is a product in itself. Yes, you are a part of nature. If you want to admire nature and tell nature, or tell us how grand nature is, then for God's sake, be a fit representative of nature. I know what it is to have a wrecked body. I can remember and feel at times the horridness of what I went through as a youngster. Believe me, I appreciate the fact that I was able to do very difficult task of exercising and food, being out and living on natural foods in the country. I'm very thankful that I was able to build a physical structure that has stood me in good play for at least 39 years. People come to me, I'll bet 2 dozen, or maybe 3 dozen have come to me at this convention and ask what they could do to get rid of a certain thing that a doctor called a disease. What foods can I eat that will cure me right now, of course? Well, I say none. I can't tell you what foods you eat to treat a disease. A disease is an unnatural thing. It isn't anything natural at all. It's a dis-object. It's an unnatural object. It's a dis-ease. You're not at ease. But there's a cause for it. That chances of being wrong foods, wrong drinks, overindulgent in a lot of things. Don't do it, friends. Look at your body. Just ask yourself if it would win a bathing beach contest. Then set about rebuilding it. Take off pounds of ugly fat. Build up strong muscles. Get exercise so that you have a flow of energy that shows in your walk. Be satisfied with nothing less than a perfect image in the glass of the physical perfection. I want you to think of that for a moment. Now remember this, you are what you eat. You couldn't build with anything else. You haven't any other thing to build your tissues out of except the food you eat. The protein you put into your body is used as the construction material. The amino acids of the protein, building the different tissue cells, building the enzymes that are the brain centers of the cell, that is the intelligence center of the cell that receives the nerve impulse. The creative energy, as it's passed through the body, is directing the enzymic centers of a cell into certain activity, and that's what you are. That's why we have, a few years ago, or a number of years ago, we woke up to the fact that there was a superior intelligence that man could tap. I don't say that you can go out in the field and you can talk to nature. Of course you can. I don't say that you'll receive a reply verbally, because you won't. But even the hum of the bees and the rustle of the trees, everything speaks a language all its own. You can be out there close to nature and feel the voice of nature, feel the communication of nature. You should be proud of the fact that you're a part of nature. A number of years ago, we coined the word thoughtsmanship. I told you I was a stubborn son of a gun, and all through life, wife calls it worse than that. But I've had certain things so deeply implanted in my mind that I wouldn't rest until I found out about those things. That's why we have in our research center there at the home office the finest equipped research laboratory in the world for the purpose of nutrition and natural substance. That is for that purpose only. We have not attempted to get a laboratory built up with a lot of falderall and to teach somebody else how to put this chemical together and that chemical and avoid them exploding. We have built that laboratory, its equipment, and the people that come in there, we have trained those chemists. Most of them are very highly educated fellows that we had to uneducate, but they have PhDs, which is fine. I said, what am I supposed to do when you tell me you're a PhD? Well, that kind of takes them down. But we have men there that are looking beyond what they learned in the universities. We're not at all interested in what John Jones once said about this chemical or that chemical. All I'm interested in is what will it do for a product that will not injure a tissue cell. We can make all kinds of products that will cause stimulus and reactions and so forth in the body. But at the same time, they may be destroying numerous cells, or at least irritating and aggravating. So we wanted to get substance that will not in any way injure a tissue cell. That is where we have set the standard. And we have, and Dr. Lupo, who is my right arm in that research laboratory, the director of that lab, is one of the finest fellows I've ever worked with. And the other boys are absolutely phenomenal. They come in, ask me a question, and I faintly remember way back sometime I remembered that problem, but for the life of me I can't give them the answer. However, I can tell them some of the fundamentals, and I do. Then I play it smart. I don't want to show my ignorance, not chairman of the board anyhow. I don't want to show my ignorance. So I tell them, now, I've given you enough. You go back there in the lab and see if you can't work that out for yourself. Then as soon as they leave my office, I telephone to the intercom to the librarian and tell her to bring me back this book or that book on, I believe maybe 2 or 3 of them, that I believe I can find something about that subject that they mentioned, that the questions they were asking. And in a matter of 2 or 3 days, I've studied up and know quite a little bit about it. So then, when they come back in, or I go out on the bench out there in the lab where they're working, I can talk intelligently with them, and most of the time they've already discovered what I did. They probably got the same book. I don't know. But I haven't shown my ignorance, and they think I'm a smart man. In other words, no matter what you do, make sure you know what you're talking about. Now let's just see if we can't start in at the very basis. Years ago, we thought of the word thoughtsmanship. We believed that there was power in thought, the power of suggestion. Now this you can take and use and accomplish your purpose, because thoughts have a tendency, not only that, but they're very likely to be, if they're given an opportunity, thoughts will activate physical structures, put them into action. A thought is never lost. Within your body is an innate, an inner consciousness. I don't care what else you call it, doesn't matter. That is the inner self, the inner consciousness, the very thing that Christ said, when you pray, enter into your secret closet, and the Father who heareth in secret will reward you openly. When you ask of yourself, when you create a thought, that thought is registered in that inner consciousness, and it has a tendency to be expressed in physical. If you don't believe that, just let somebody shoot a gun right back of your ear someday and see how quickly you freeze. Every tissue cell in your body chills because the thought is a terrible catastrophe. You froze. Every muscle tightened. Every cell in your body was tense. You were ready for fight or flight. All because of a thought. Now, every thought you produce stimulates activity. Impulse of that thought creates action in the cell tissue, in the muscles, of the entire body. And what you think, you look. If you're scared, you look scared. If you're grieved, you look grieved. Grief-stricken. What you think, you look. I've not here, of course, but I've been before big audiences before that their thoughts must have been something awful the way they look. But here it's beautiful. What you think, you look. What you think, you do. You do what your thoughts direct you to do. Sure, you may do some horrible things, but you thought of those things once in your life. It's registered in your inner consciousness, and the first opportunity, that's going to take place. So be careful what you think, because you may think something that will be very detrimental to you in the future. Keep your mind on the nice things of life, the love for humanity, love of service. Then what you think you are. Now, I have to admit, you're not always what you think you are, but what you think, that's what you are. We have been trying to put into your mind tonight the desire to be creative. You don't all have to be research nuts like I've always been, wanting to see the bottom of everything. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't rest at all until I find out something more about those things. You don't have to be that curious, but you should have a sense of curiosity about what's going on about you, that you can analyze the situation and realize that what you think you are, that you've got to think correctly before you can accomplish anything. If you try to accomplish something without thinking, you're just leaving things to chance. And that never gets you very far. I just brought the wife back from Las Vegas, and she left a lot of things down there because she took chances. I'm not a gambler. I don't want to get the other fellow's money that way. I don't want to take the chance. I want to know where I'm going. I don't want to do anything just on impulse. Because if you do something on impulse, it's because of the thoughts you created 6 years ago or 60 years ago, depending on your age. So you can't do that? Just drive your car and just stop when you get to your destination and say, how much thought did I give to driving down here today? If you've been going to that office and back for every day, you probably didn't spend a minute thinking about which corner to turn and how to start the car and how to back out and all. You didn't have to. The thoughts you created last week, last month, or the last years were operating your physical body, and through that, operating the machine. Don't you see? You can make of yourself whatsoever you will if you'll create the right thoughts. Get the thought pattern and follow that pattern to a completed image. Keep that image in mind. Don't be afraid of hard work, but you'll accomplish your purpose. Thoughtsmanship will make you a success in any worthwhile movement. It'll also put you in the penitentiary if you stop thinking the wrong way and try to shortcut. Because what you think, you are. If you're a crook, it's because you think that way. If you don't want to be a crook, stop thinking about it. And think about the things that you can accomplish for your fellow man. We have what we consider to be the greatest sales plan that was ever devised. We started out with one thought in mind. That was there were potential hairy pricks and all the rest of these big boys. There were potentials out there that would grow into tremendous operators if we'd had a plan to give them the opportunity that they could build on. So let's start thinking success. Let's start thinking the truth about Shaklee products. Every one of them is built in such a manner, researched to the point where we know that there isn't a single thing in that product, whether it's a food supplement, a cream, a lotion, or a cleaner, except SGC and the killers. Those will injure you. They're not for that purpose. They're not supposed to. But the products that we make, not a single one outside of those germicides, not a single one that can in any way injure a tissue cell. We wouldn't make them if we thought they would do that, or if we proved that they would do that. Everything is made to cooperate with nature. Think about nature. Plan your products. Plan your work, because you are a part of nature. You're no better than the old pumpkin on the vine. No better, because your life force is identically the same. You are endowed with a certain amount of intelligence that sometimes gets in your way. But you are endowed with an educated brain, an educated spirit that directs the brain. You have an endowment of wisdom that the average the animal of the field doesn't have. That's the only advantage you have. You are on a par with other nature's products. You are a part of nature. You are that part which is of most importance to you. But be sure that you do not offend nature. You offend your own tissue cells. If you offend one of these little ones, you know about Christ said about it. You offend even the tissue cells of your body in wrong eating, wrong living, wrong drinking, overindulgence in things that are injurious. you are injuring your chances in life. Start the sense of love. I have, as I told my wife, I have perhaps 100,000 lovers out there in the field. More than that. We love them all. We hope they love us. Thank you. God bless.